Well, good morning, everybody. In this shorter video, I just want to cover some of the highlights in this upcoming forecast. We're going to start this off with a discussion about some of the much colder air that's going to be taking over the eastern half of the United States into the foreseeable future, possibly out into the first week of April, with only very brief interludes of warmer conditions. So this morning, we already have single digits that are starting to come into parts of the northern plains, and the concern is by tomorrow, how deep into the south we're going to get this colder air, because we can see right now the freeze warnings line several states down here in parts of the south and southeast. By Tuesday morning, I expect the freeze line to get right here where this white line is located. And this is going to be a very late freeze event for this region simply because of how warm things have been up until this point. After that, though, as we watch the day 5 through 10 and day 10 through 15 temperatures evolve, it will likely be through the first week of April before we start to see sustained warmth coming back into a big section here of the United States. And if you notice, there's an area right in through here that kind of keeps the colder air around longest. And that's because there's likely some snow feedback in this area. The chances over the next 10 days of getting at least 6 inches of snow are pretty high right in through this quarter. And we have to have a discussion about what that means and where that's coming from. We'll do that in just a few moments here. But yeah, there's really a solid chance of some pretty heavy snows hitting this particular region. What's important about that is throughout this entire winter, we have been way behind average in that same quarter with respect to snow accumulation. Some places in Minnesota picking up less than a fifth of their normal snowfall. So to see those changes are critical. Plus, that's been an area that's been quite dry. So this could be the first meaningful round of moisture coming into this area. And I don't see things slowing down. I think a lot of the central United States and a lot of the eastern half of the country is going to go into a very active end of March and beginning of April. And we'll have to question, when does the pattern open back up for warmth and some windows? I think as we approach the middle of April, we're going to get that. So up until then, we're going to be talking about more systems rolling through, but they're not going to get here till later this week. Over the weekend, a lot of the story was the deep upper level low spinning in Arizona, New Mexico, Colorado, and Utah, parts of California and Nevada as well. And then the heavy rains that spread across the south, one area that's seen substantial drought relief, almost to the point of widespread flooding throughout this winter and very early spring. The snow over the weekend really packed in around the upper level low that was just to the south of this blocking high that's over the northwest right now. That's part of the reason why such warm conditions are moving up the west. But if you're down here in the Four Corner states, we hang on to the cooler air the longest. So let's have a look at what the models suggest. As you watch me play through the rest of the day today on Monday, snow squalls around the Great Lakes, upper level low spins over Arizona, and a low moves in by Tuesday midday into Lake Huron, Ontario, and then getting into New England. After that, watch for some snow to spread midweek right in through here, and this is going to be the beginning of what's going to be a pretty active time period. That activity is coming from the Pacific. See these waves all stacked up in the Pacific? The one I'm most interested in right now is this one right here, south of the Aleutian Islands. Pretty far to the south, but right there. Because by the time we get into this weekend, it's going to be this deep trough that's sitting here. There's going to be enough cold air out ahead of it, enough cold air in it, that I think it's going to be a pretty substantial precipitation maker. Now that's this weekend. So we're waiting to see how the models are going to respond to the development of this system. But I'm going to show you a few different solutions. Here is the next 7 days from the WPC. Let's add that to the next 7 days from the European Artificial Intelligence model. And then let's add that to the European operational run. Now, if you compare the European operational run to the GFS operational run, you can see that these two models fall pretty well in line with one another. And it's not as though they don't match what we've got from the AI system or from the WPC, but the beauty is I can keep taking these out. And what you're going to get here is quite a bit of activity to finish out this month of March and to start April. So as we look at that, let's do a very quick comparison of the models. We've already seen through this point, getting to Tuesday into Wednesday, so there's some light snow. As we progress toward the end of the week, a little shortwave sneaks through parts of Texas here and makes its way into the southeast. And it kind of links up with the weak system that rolls out of the plains and into the Great Lakes. We could get some snow here, for example, in lower Michigan. This system by Friday into Saturday rolls up the East Coast, so some heavy rains for the southeast, snow into the interior of New England, and that's just kind of the beginning, round one, I guess we can call it. High pressure sinks in behind it. It's in both models. That's going to bring in that cold air ahead of this next large system Saturday, Sunday that enters the west. Now, details are yet to come, but we do see by Sunday into Monday something large emerging in the mid part of the country. Its trajectory, its inflection, if it's a trough that's tilted in a positive or negative direction, I still have yet to see those things. But it could produce a lot of rain and severe storms south and some heavy snows that are off to the north. So speaking of snow, I'm just going to give you the models and we can digest this throughout the week. But that's where the European model is putting down the heaviest snow corridor, right in through there. Now you can see snows in the Western Mountains and snow in New England, but I'm keeping an eye on this. This is what the GFS says. And that's hitting an area that's almost had no snow this winter, except for an event right before Christmas in Minnesota. It's missed out on it. And it's there in the probabilities. That's the chance of 6 inches of snow. Just showed you that earlier. This is it again. So from Alberta through Montana, right straight through to Lake Superior into Ontario, big time snows. And here's the chance of getting a foot. I got a new model running, darn it. Let's take you back out and show you that. That's the chance over 10 days of getting a foot of snow. And the models don't quit. They continue to keep good zonal flow or some variation of it without any major blocking through Easter Sunday. And that's why the week 2 forecasts continue to show wetter in all 3 scenarios. If there's a drier spot, I think it's the Canadian prairie out of this particular pattern. Now, you know that I talked about colder air coming in, and we can see that that's really going to be replacing what has been an extremely mild start to this late winter, early spring time period. So since February 1st, these are your temperature ranks. We've got some places here that are up to 200 GDDs above average, which is about 2 to 3 weeks early on spring, which also follows what we've got from the National Phenology Network, showing that spring is more than 20 days early compared to average in this area. Well, the colder air that's coming in, right? Watch it happen again in the European model. Warm west now, but watch the cool down happen for almost the entirety of the lower 48 as we press forward. If there's any warm air, it just lasts a couple of days. That's what we're seeing as we progress out here toward the beginning of April. Longer range, I think that after the first week of April, moderation begins. So this is the first week of April, and this is the second week of April. The cooler air that's in the west is largely a bias due to the snowpack that's in the west. We see this every spring. So that's what you've got. That's your temperature pattern. Now, as we think about the spring severe weather season, I don't have any reason to tell you that it's going to calm down, but I don't doubt that there will be open planting windows and some of them early starting in mid-April. From here, let's quickly check in on South America, where we've been talking about dryness in Mato Grosso do Sul, even over towards Sao Paulo as of late. We do know that the MJO is going to move into a more favorable position by the time we get out there about 7 to 10 days from now, opening up the ability for rain to fall in parts of Brazil. And that's one of the reasons why the latest model runs have gone over with a really wet stripe into this area of 100 to maybe up to 200 millimeters of rainfall. And that's 4 to 8 inches possible in this region, which would hit one of the critically dry areas. But we're not sure how long that's going to last, because the newest update for the whole month of April still maintains a drier stripe in through here, which needs to be watched because that would be the critical month of rainfall for the safrinha crop. Still wet in Argentina and southern Brazil in this forecast, though. Lastly, I want to give you the new long-range outlook for Brazil and all of South America, forgive me here, for April, May, and June. And in the longer-range video, we finish with a discussion about the global outlook of this. But I'll stop the shorter video here, and we'll talk again tomorrow. Thanks.